Thank you, guys. Well, thank you for joining. My name is Wes. I'm a DevRel person on the Eigenlayer team, and I'm very happy to get to chat with you today about restaking. I've spent the past few years in decentralized infrastructure, and before that in traditional Web 2 infrastructure. So this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart, and particularly people that are building new applications and new infrastructure using restaking. So please check out the slides here online. That'll give you a link to my Twitter profile. It's posted up there. But really, the conversation today is about your project and your project ideas and making them more valuable to your community. We're going to talk specifically about decentralization, which I think is kind of like the reason that we're all here today. But we're also going to talk about challenges. It is expensive and it is difficult to decentralize. But we do have a specific solution in mind around restaking. We'll talk about how that works. And I also want to go through an example, kind of a fun side project, taking an existing peer-to-peer app that's very popular and making it more crypto-friendly, more decentralized using this restaking technology. So first off, kind of a fun thought exercise. Would anyone like to guess, looking at this chart, wager what they think this chart represents? You can make a guess. You can look at the movement there. I'll also give you some dates. You probably have some ideas of what it could be. Good guess. Good guess. That was very close. It's actually the market price of decentralization, but it's very correlated to Bitcoin price. Yeah. So basically, the point I would like to make with this graph is that Bitcoin is a very powerful tool. It was kind of the OG of what got us into this space. But Bitcoin is basically a database, and it's not a very sophisticated database. It's not a very fast database, but what it is it's very powerfully decentralized, and it's the first of its kind. So it's extremely valuable for that reason, and maybe a lot of the reason that it's valuable is its decentralization. So hopefully this can be kind of a point to start in thinking about how we value decentralization, but also from thought leaders in our space, thought leaders in the Bitcoin community, thought leaders outside of crypto, they all sort of value this decentralization component for various philosophical reasons. And even, governments and regulatory institutions value decentralization. If your project is sufficiently decentralized, the US government, European governments will actually treat you differently in terms of regulation. So there's all these different dimensions of how decentralization can add value to your project. So I think we're all kind of in this mode of thinking that decentralization is valuable. But it's hard. It's hard to decentralize. If you're building something new in Web3, a new database, a new public goods project, it's difficult to fully decentralize those things as far as Bitcoin has. And there's some costs to consider. The first is capital. If you're going to do a proof of stake network and you're going to try to secure your network so that people behave correctly and they don't act maliciously, you have to put some stake or some capital up in that network. You have to go and you have to find people and say, hey, I'm launching my new coin and my new network. Would you be a validator for my network? You might get airdrops. You might be a part of our community. It's time consuming. And all of these things are outside the realm of your focus. They're not the key differentiator of what you're trying to build. Every Web3 project has to do this. And there's been some powerful predecessors that have been able to accomplish similar things, but they also often require an app chain or a consensus layer. And oftentimes that's more work than you may need to deliver your service to your end user. So the way that I like to think about this solution is decentralization as a service. You have a fun idea, you want to bring it to the service, and you want to say, just decentralize my service for me. And so Eigenlayer is one version of this new class of restaking solutions. And what they're basically doing is they're taking the assets, they're combining them, the capital for you, and the operators for you. So you just basically bring the secret sauce of what you want to build. You plug it in so that there's validation, slashing mechanics, and reward mechanics, and you're off and running. You do not actually have to maintain a consensus in this, which is interesting because you may not need it for your users. And this is one example of one of our AVSs that are building, and their phrasing is, it fortifies our marketplace. They're building a marketplace for AVS, for deep end services, and it just adds security, adds trust for their users. So how do we go about this? We use the term crypto economic security very often. Sometimes that can be a little too technical, But basically what we're combining is staking of assets, some validation that the people are operating your service correctly, some slashing if they behave maliciously, and then some rewards if they behave well. I also like the term sticks and carrots. That's kind of an easy terminology. But most importantly, this way of thinking is true for both new projects. We spend a lot of time with people building new projects from scratch, but it's also true for existing projects. There's many successful peer-to-peer projects in social media and file storage and things like this that people use, but they don't have a crypto economic validation. So maybe they're missing some of the adoption that they could have. And to give you a mental frame of reference, Ethereum is actually using the same mechanism. It has stake, it has consensus execution algorithms, slashing, and rewards. EigenLayer's approach, the restaking, is very, very similar. The difference is that instead of maintaining some consensus and like a predefined execution of how the Ethereum blockchain will evolve from block to block, you get to choose. You get to choose the determination of what service you run and how you want to validate it. So it's kind of a fun new design exercise for your project. And because these services are always being validated on chain, we call it an actively validated service. So these are the three kind of key entities in this ecosystem. You have restakers, people that want to bring capital. They're looking for yield. There's lots of folks like that in the crypto ecosystem. There's professionalized operators or individual operators, people that want to run your service in exchange for some reward. And then there's the service builder. So that's you. You have your project, your existing team, your DAO, your community, but you want to run it as a more decentralized service. Lastly, there are the users. Who's actually going to consume this service, the AVS consumer? And so there's a couple actions here. The restaker is going to stake. They're also going to delegate that stake to an operator. Now this operator has all this delegated stake that has been entrusted with them, and they need to run their service correctly. So they're going to allocate that stake into a service, an AVS. The AVS is going to have predefined logic so that if the operator performs the service well, they get rewarded. And if they behave maliciously, they get slashed, or they just simply get ejected from the operator set if they behave maliciously. And there's an important value flow here. So stakers are contributing the stake, operators are then allocating that stake, rewards are flowing back to both members of the community. So it's sort of a virtuous cycle, sort of a three-sided marketplace or maybe a four-sided marketplace if you consider the consumers. So what does this look like approximately? If you go to app.eigenlayer.xyz, you can get a sense of how much capital exists today. And that capital is there because they really want to earn yield. They want to be a part of the community that's securing your services. They're ready to contribute that community to services they're going to pay rewards. But as a builder, instead of going around having to raise a lot of capital, let's say from a VC or some other mechanism, that capital is ready to go. You don't have to raise it. They're eager to stake into your project. And it's entirely permissionless. So most importantly, you do not simply have to stake Ethereum or some LRT or ERC20. You can stake your project's token. And it's an extremely valuable component because, previously, if I'm launching my own coin, I'm going to launch Westcoin as an example. Westcoin on its own doesn't necessarily have value. It could be a meme coin. It could be shallow in terms of its value accrual. But if Westcoin was used as the collateral to secure a very important service that a lot of people use, now Westcoin has real utility to it, real value to it. So there's tons of benefits for the project in terms of locking up that and aligning that value. And lastly, the operators, they're ready to go as well. So if you go and check out our network here, you can see we've got hundreds of operators that want to run your service. They're very actively looking for projects that are building AVSs. They want to run great services. They want to earn the rewards. They're very effective at following the rules that you set for your service. And also, actually, I didn't include this here, but we have a bunch of AVSs live. So if you go to app.eigenlayer.xyz, you can get a sense of about 20 or 30 AVSs that are live on mainnet, and then a few hundred that are still in testnet on Haleski. So rewards distribution is super important. We've just added some new features for flexibility for rewards payments so that previously there was a static amount of rewards that were paid to operators and stakers. Now you have flexibility in how you pay different operators for different tasks and different behaviors. So lots of programmability, lots of flexibility in how you pay those rewards. And slashing. Slashing is the big final component to our protocol. Slashing is currently in testnet, and we're working as quickly as possible to get that launched to mainnet. Hopefully end of this quarter, maybe early next quarter is our approximate timeline. So that you can slash, if you're an AVS service builder, you can slash those operators. What we find that's interesting, at least in the Ethereum ecosystem, is that simply having the mechanism of slashing in place really drives correct behavior among operators. You actually don't have to slash that often or for that much to get people to behave properly because they want to maintain their capital at all costs. So it's a very effective mechanism, regardless of how much you use it, just to have it in place. All right. So at the end here, I want to cover an idea of an example peer-to-peer project and how to make it more valuable for the crypto community. So has anyone in the room worked with IPFS before? Any IPFS fans? Okay, fantastic. All right. So I used to work at Protocol Labs. I'm a huge IPFS fan. I think it's got so much more opportunity for the crypto space. But even when I talk to engineers at my company, I say, hey, let's store some intermediate files on IPFS. They say, IPFS is great, but I need to also be able to depend that the file is there. I need to guarantee that it's there, that it's been pinned. And there's varying degrees of success in the ecosystem with that. I mean, IPFS is a protocol, so on its own, it does not have crypto economic incentives to maintain the file. You can self-host your IPFS server if you choose to. There's lots of very good services like Pinata and Web3 storage that exist. Some of them may not be as crypto native. You may not be able to invoke crypto payments to get the same crypto guarantees as you might want. So all in all, IPFS just has not had its level of adoption of Web3 that I think it should have. So can we take crypto economic security and restaking and slap it on IPFS and make it more crypto friendly? I think we can. And by the way, this is just a fun idea, which actually there's some other protocols that are implementing a similar idea. So if you're passionate about this, please take it and run with it. It's kind of a fun side hobby project. But let's say we're just going to take the existing IPFS binary, minimal effort, minimal coding, and we're going to add shared security with EigenLayer, and we're going to make an AVS out of it. And if you go to ChatGPT and you say, come up with a funny name for a project that involves IPFS pinning and crypto economic services, Pinception is the name that comes back. So that's how I got the name for this AVS. But basically, let's just take IPFS Kubo as the binary. And what we're going to have here is on the right-hand side, we're going to have this operator code. We're going to write just a little bit of JavaScript to orchestrate with the Kubo binary, just to communicate on-chain with it. And take the off-the-shelf Docker container. Now, this could be Docker Compose, Kubernetes. You could run anything you want. This is basically the binary that all of your operators would run the AVS service with. And that's basically the architecture. We will write an AVS contract that will represent our AVS. It's called Pinception. And it'll interact with EigenLayer contracts for staking and slashing and things like that. So I actually have a longer demo of both of these. I started from our Hello World AVS implementation. And if you're interested in running just a very simple example of an AVS, this is a great place to start. Hello World AVS on EigenLayer GitHub. It's got a couple of simple scripts to run. It's very, very easy, and it's basically just message passing as the work that's done for the AVS. It's the simplest example we'd come up with. So for Pinception, my goal was to take that and then just make a few small modifications to make it a functional, decentralized IPFS AVS. And so that's what it is. And there's actually a demo video right here on the website you can go to, and you can actually see an end-to-end demo. In the interest of time, I probably won't crack open the IDE here, just because it would take us a lot more depth than I think is good for this talk. But please do go check it out, and also hit me up if you're interested. I'm happy to walk you through the code in any amount of depth. So for next steps, this is your journey. This is where we're headed to, the promised land, decentralization, maximum decentralize of all the things that we can. But it takes some work to get there, and we are on board to help you on that journey. So please, next step, go check out the Hello World example. Check out our docs, building an AVS. If you want to set up a call with us, there's a link there. You can get in touch with us through our forum. And we also have a community called Build on Eigen. We'd love to have you join and participate with other builders. So that is all I have for today. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Wes.
Cool.
I think we have a short time for some Q&A if there's some question in the public. I don't see any, but anyway, I think you're going to be around.
I'll be around. And I do have merch also. I brought a bunch of caps, so if anyone would like some merch, please hang out and take a cab.
Oh, you have a question? Yeah.
So if you are excited about this project, so do you think it's also like an economically viable product to build if you combine IPFS and an ABS service? And if it is, like, would you take it and like run with it, or should somebody here in the audience or somebody else like actually build it and really build a product out of it? Because I actually do think it is a pain point for a couple of users, me included.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. One of the nuances is that anybody building an ABS, it's great if you can have real end user demand lined up, and that's always kind of the struggle. Is like that's a fun technology project, but we really need people like you guys who can actually use the project. And so for me, like the side time that I've had, I haven't been able to kind of put together the nexus of enough like demand of people that want to run on IPFS. But if we can get enough people that want to build it, it's a great community project. I've tried to design as much and kind of give it out to the community in the ether as possible. There's also another project that's probably going to be implementing a very similar design on their own anyways. I won't spoil who it is, but that'll probably be available in the near coming months. So ping me if you're interested in learning more. So I think the universe is going to manifest something like this either way. But thank you for the question. Yeah, please.
Yeah, the Swarm storage network already has incentives embedded. So what's the difference between your proposal and the Swarm? Are you familiar with Swarm and what can be added?
Did you mention Swarm Network already has, it's in Swarm, Ethereum Swarm?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. That's a great point. So I'm actually not as familiar with Ethereum Swarm. I should probably hold off on any commentary, about their technologies per se. First of all, I think it's fantastic what they're doing. Like anybody who's building the space is wonderful. So I fully support it. Sometimes, if a project already has a good economic incentive and a good operator network, they may not need this technology. Like they've kind of built it themselves and they're already past that stage, and that's okay. This is more, I guess, for people that, or other projects in general that do not have that yet and that want to bootstrap it quickly. So that's a really good clarifying point. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Cool.
So if there is any other question, I would thank you again.
Thank you.
Wes.
Thank you. Cheers.